Now, how can someone just disappear without a trace? How could they be here 1 minute and just poof, gone the next, seemingly erased right out of existence in the blink of an eye? Now, we see that a lot on this channel in a lot of these videos, and we may never know the answers to these questions. But for 5 families in San Francisco a few years ago, these questions became a part of their everyday lives and continue to haunt them. I'm sure the frustration of not knowing, the desperation of needing answers, that's got to be almost too much to bear. Here are their stories. The first of what some call either the California Five or the San Francisco Five to go missing was Jackson Miller. Jackson went missing on May 17, 2010. His vehicle was found abandoned near the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco. Although there was no note indicating that he meant any self-harm found in or near the vehicle, neither were his keys there. Due to his struggle with major anxiety and depression and the fact that, at the time of his disappearance, Jackson was being prescribed medications to help with these issues, but was not taking them anymore, many people, including Jackson's family and loved ones, thought he had almost certainly and tragically jumped to his demise. Despite no body or evidence to confirm this theory ever being found, this was what not only the family, but the authorities and even the public assumed happened to Jackson. He was only 1 month shy of his 20th birthday and living in Cupertino, California at the time. It's been 11 years now since that fateful day in May of 2010, and the family still have no answers at all. His mother stated, "We've been sad and incomplete since Jackson left. There's always been a slim sliver of hope he's alive. We both always held out hope that he was out there, but honestly, we flip-flopped back and forth because of the amount of time, and just not being able to imagine why in the world he wouldn't call us if he was out there. It's just a huge mystery for us." There was a possible sighting of an encounter with a man claiming to be Jackson in March of this year, 2021. A woman smoking a cigarette outside the Target in Woodland, California, claimed a man she didn't know approached her and asked if she could give him a ride to Sacramento and if he could bum a cigarette. The woman said she declined to give him a ride, and when she did, he allegedly asked if she would call him an Uber and stated his name was Jackson and he was a missing person. Surveillance footage from the Target store captured something a little strange regarding the man. He entered the store wearing shorts and exited a few minutes later wearing black pajama pants with green shamrocks on them and a dark green sweater. Another business owner in the area, who is yet unnamed, also contacted the Santa Rosa County Police and reported seeing a man who she believed to be missing person Jackson Miller hanging around in the parking lot of her business and trying to bum cigarettes and a ride to Sacramento. She claimed he left the premises, however, when no one would help him. Authorities claim they have reviewed both the Target footage and the footage from the second business, but haven't disclosed publicly yet if the young man was in fact Jackson Miller or if the tips were even viable. No word on what the family says about the images publicly released of the young man in Target. The Santa Clara County Sheriff's investigators would only say, "The Sheriff's Office is aware of the missing person case of Jackson Miller. Detectives are currently in communication with the Woodland Police Department. At this time, this is still an ongoing investigation, and detectives are currently using all leads to locate Mr. Miller." Now, notice they didn't say to try and locate Mr. Miller. But as of right now, however, there have been no more information released on whether or not the young man in question is indeed Jackson Miller. He is still officially a missing person and possible jumper. The next young man to go missing right around the same time and in the same area of California was 29-year-old Cameron Rimmer. According to his father, Cameron traveled to San Francisco with $30,000 in cash to start a medical marijuana business. He was staying at the Fairmont Hotel in San Francisco when he was last seen. He had flown there on September 29, 2011. He had bought 60 to 70 packages of the drug with the money he had brought with him. But it's unknown how many people knew how much cash and marijuana Cameron had on him during this trip, or who he's going there to meet. He was supposed to return home on October 30th, but never showed back up. The last known contact with Cameron was on October 6th, when he called a friend who lived in Arizona and asked him if he would pay for another night at the hotel with his credit card, and Cameron would pay him back at a later date. The friend said he would, but before he had the chance to, Cameron called him again and told him not to worry about it because he'd found another place to stay for free. No one ever heard from Cameron Rimmer again. This was also the last activity on his cell phone, according to the police who checked his phone records and pings through the course of the investigation. On the day he disappeared, he left all of his cash and his marijuana checked with the bellman of the hotel, along with his personal belongings and luggage, but never returned to pick up any of it. He hasn't used any credit or debit cards, checked his email, or used any forms of social media since his vanishing either. Rimmer was unmarried with no children at the time of his disappearance and had lived in a few different cities across the state of California previously as well. Cameron did have some mental illness, mainly bipolar disorder, which he had been in the past hospitalized for. The medication he was required to take for this condition was left behind with his belongings the last day he was ever seen. It's also reported he had sustained several head injuries in the past. This is important because without medications and possible, even if mild, brain damage, Cameron could have had some kind of episode and simply wandered off. There have been several reports in the years after his disappearance of him being spotted unkempt and with long hair throughout the San Francisco area, but none could ever be substantiated. At the time of his disappearance, he was 29 years old, Caucasian, with blonde hair and blue eyes, and his nickname was Cam. Despite all the maybes and possible sightings, Cameron is still officially listed as an endangered missing person. Just 2 months after Cameron Rimmer seemingly vanished without a trace, so did a 23-year-old musician named Shawn Dickerson. Shawn was living in San Francisco at the time, but working towards moving to New York City with a friend. The night before he went missing, Shawn had stayed up talking with a friend and his roommates until 4 a.m. When he woke on the morning of December 2nd, 2011, he realized he had overslept. He was rushing out the door at around 11:30 that morning, explaining to his roommates he was going to be late for work. Shawn never made it to work that day and was never seen or heard from again. It's worth mentioning, however, that his not arriving at work that morning wasn't that worrying in itself. Shawn worked at a men's clothing store, and just the day before, on December 1st, Shawn had never come back to work from his lunch break and had only contacted his boss later in the day to explain why. His boss told him he didn't want to work with him if he was going to be unreliable, doing things such as working a half day and never coming back from lunch. Shawn's ex-girlfriend reported he had left all of his personal things and belongings behind in his room, in the house he shared with 5 other people. None of them have ever seen or heard from him either. Shawn is considered officially endangered missing, and unfortunately his loved ones have no additional information or answers as to what could possibly have happened to him. Next, on February 7th, 2013, Christian Michael Hughes was in San Francisco on the 3rd day of a trip he'd taken from his home in Sacramento to visit a friend. He was supposed to be back home that day by 2:30 p.m., but he never made his flight. The friends Christian was staying with said he had packed his things around 1 o'clock that morning and left. He has never been seen or heard from again. No one knows where Christian was meaning to go when he left that morning, or even why he decided to do so. He had no other friends in the area and no access to a vehicle. He also had very little money on him. There has never been an explanation given as to why Christian had decided to leave this friend's house so early in the morning. His mother has since come forward and said she has some concerns about his mental health due to his father having passed away right before his disappearance. She also said he'd had health problems, but what she meant by this is unclear as well, just as the circumstances surrounding his vanishing. While the police have stated publicly they do not believe there was any foul play involved in Christian's case, there just isn't enough information made available to the public for most people to understand why they said this. The circumstances are a bit strange to say the least, and without an explanation as to why he left so early or where he was going, it's hard to come to any kind of reasonable conclusion. He'd had several surgeries in the months prior to his disappearance and has unspecified medical conditions. There's been no new information on this case since the initial reports and coverage in the first days and weeks of the event, though just like in all the other cases, his family and loved ones are still desperately searching for answers and the truth about what happened to their loved one. Finally, the last of the San Francisco Five to go missing was Shawn Sidi. On May 21, 2013, Shawn Isaac Sidi went to visit an old high school teacher on the 100 block of Oak Street in San Francisco, California. He left his house at 11:40 in the morning and spoke to his father from his cell phone around 1:30 that afternoon. He told his father he was taking the bus to the local park and would be home later on that day. His phone seemingly went dead a half hour later at around 2 p.m. and was never charged or picked up again. Shawn was never seen or heard from again either. Several months before his disappearance, Shawn suffered a severe and traumatic brain injury due to an accidental fall. Because of this, he never left the house for extended periods of time and kept in frequent contact with his parents on the rare occasion he did leave by himself. He is in desperate need of his medication and is considered medically fragile as well. Even the slightest bump on Shawn's head could lead to severe brain damage or even death. Even without these things happening, without continued medical care for the conditions he's already suffered, he will die. Shawn had braces on his teeth and is biracial, half Asian and half Caucasian. His left arm and wrist were in a black splint at the time of his disappearance as well. His right eye is slightly drooped and he has many scars on his head and neck, as well as titanium screws in his left wrist and head. There is little to no more information about where Shawn could have possibly gone and or where he could have ended up. There's also little to no information about the police investigation of this disappearance, at least not that has been made public. Though all these cases seem to have only one common denominator on the surface, if you look a little deeper, you'll see most of them had some form of mental illness, and 2 out of the 5 had suffered traumatic head injuries. Surface things like having the same name could even factor in. I know many people, including investigators, don't believe any of these cases are connected, let alone all of them, but in this community, with what we know, we should be very uncomfortable with clusters of missing persons like this. They were all young men and hadn't yet turned 30 at the time of their respective disappearances. Could this be a new pattern of some kind? Something along the vein of the so-called smiley face killer theory? Or are the abductors possibly involved, just getting smarter and the men aren't being found so easily? These are questions we would be remiss not to ask, but we must also remember to be respectful of the families, some of whom may not want to hear such things. Well, there you have it, folks. What do you think of these strange 5 cases from the San Francisco area of California? Is there some connection with the California Five? Or is it merely similar circumstances?